All right, here we go. ESMR2S. Today is September 8th. So have your calculator ready as well, okay? You can use your phones today if you need to. So let's write that down for now. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit more here. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to keep it very basic at first, but that's just to highlight some of the things that I want you to know for this course, okay? So in general, if you want to convert a fraction into a decimal, basically what you just do is you take the top number and you divide it by the bottom number. So numerator divided by denominator. And if you think about it, the only symbol that looks like a fraction is a division symbol, right? For most of our calculators. Some of you will do like a backslash. But anyways, you get 0.6. So that's it. You just write it down, 0.6. Okay, no problem there. What about 7 over 16? So 7 divided by 16. You get 4 decimals. And note that this one ends, right? It doesn't keep on going forever. So we actually just write down 4375. That would be correct to do that. And I would actually probably encourage you to use all of them if they do give you like a finite number of decimals. But if they want you to round to 2 decimals, okay, what happens there? Well, we technically want to cut it right here. But before you do that, you have to look at the number to the right of 3 in this case, which is a 7. So if the number to the right is 5 or greater, it bumps this up. And in this case, it is. So we would say that this number is approximately 0.44. Does that make sense? Your teachers taught you rounding well. So you want to cut it here. If the number to the right of that line is 5 or greater, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then this number bumps up, and that's what you write down. If this had been a 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 here, you would have kept it at 3, okay? So let's do 5 divided by 8. That's the next one. That's 0.625. And what would that be approximately rounded? That'd be 0.6. Let's look to the right of 2, right? It's a 5, so bumps it to a 3, so 0.63. So both are correct. If you wrote this down, you would be right. But most of the time, they ask you to round to 2 decimals, and that's when we would use this, okay, as your final answer. What about 9 divided by 16? That would be 0.5625 exactly. And then we say that's approximately 0.5 what? We look to the right of the 6, and that's a 2, which is less than 5, so it stays at 6 like that. So we'll make a note here, round to 2 decimals, or to the nearest 100, right? So again, if it has a finite number, I would like you to use all of it. But if I ask you to round to 2 decimals or it keeps on going forever, then you round, okay? Number 2, converting percentages to decimals. So just write that down for now. If you already know the answer, you can go ahead. I'm just gonna give you a booklet. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Mhm. Sure, but it doesn't bother me that much. Okay. Yeah, it's all good. You take it easy up, see ya. How would you do percent of a number? Well, we cannot, you can't just go 5, right? 5 of 240, 5 times 240, you can't do that. We convert it, right? The decimal is here, technically. Like, watch this. If you type in 5 equals, right? 5 equals, you get 5 decimal, right? The decimal is always there. My calculator, at least. So you shift it over to 1, 2. You fill it in with zeros. So this needs to be turned to a decimal. Of in math means multiplication, $240. So then you go 0.05 times 240, and that gives you 12. $12 that is, okay? See how there's a dollar sign right there? So you have to have a dollar amount at the end. And for dollars, for money, you always want 2 decimals no matter what. Just put 2 decimals every time. Trust me, in grade 12 provincial exam, they dock you if you don't. So just have 2 decimals and you'll be safe, okay? Let's do a couple more. We're gonna go 2.45% of 125,000. Try those two. All right, so let's try B here. 2.45% times $125,000. You cannot just take 2.45 and multiply by that because you get a huge number, okay? You would have to turn that into a decimal, which turns out to be this. So you just divide that by 100, you get that, and then you multiply that by 125,000. And what do we get? 3,062.50. It says 0.5 on your calculator, right? You gotta go 0.50. It's just a thing like, let's imagine you put in a sign to sell something, you wouldn't just go 0.5, right? You'd go 500. Sorry, 50 cents, right? Like it's just, imagine you're putting up a sign and it's a dollar amount. You want to have 2 decimals, all right? It's actually fairly easy to remember. Okay, over here you go 0.65 times of always means multiplication in math, 4,500. And so I'm kind of bypassing some of the things I was showing you earlier. And here you got to make sure you have your units, people. And another thing that I'm not going to have room for that. Yeah, I'm not going to have room for that. But if this had been 29.25, sorry, 2925.8, you would have to round it to the nearest whole unit. Like if we're talking number of cans, number of people, like whole units, you have to round to the nearest whole unit, okay? And I'll show you as we get along, as we move along the content, you will experience that, okay? All right, number 4 is probably some of your favorite. Proportional reasoning. I'm going to start nice and easy. My ears are getting sore, guys, from wearing a mask all day. Can't wait for the 3:30 bell. All right. I'm just going to do a check here. Folks at home, you're doing okay? Everybody's still there? I still see all of you there. Let me just everybody's saying yes. Well, not everybody. One. Thank you for saying yes. All right. So we're going to continue here. Cross multiplying, dividing. Does that ring a bell? It should at this point, but everybody gives it a spin and I'll give it my spin, okay? So the only two numbers that you can multiply diagonally are these two. And you don't have to do this in the future, but I always like to highlight in an angle diagonally, you can only multiply these two. That's always the first thing you need to do, multiply. And then there's one left over. So you multiply and you divide. Okay? So to find out the value of n, okay, we would have to go 3, and I use brackets quite often, folks. 3 times 16 divided by 8. Okay, that's what I do. So this is the setup, your work, and then we're going to do the final answer next. So go ahead and type this in. You can actually go like in one shot when it's like that. 3 times 16 divided by 8 in one shot, and that is 6. We don't have units, so we just leave it like that. I don't want you to go from here straight to there. Okay, I want you to go from here to there and then answer. Okay, so does it make sense for it to be 6? Well, let's look back once. Essentially, you're asking these two fractions should be exactly the same. Watch. From 8 to get to 16, you'd have to go 8 times 2 to get 16. 3 times 2, therefore, would give you 6, and that's what we got. So now we know they're the same. Okay? B. I'll just put up one more, and then I'll give you a bunch to try on your own. Maybe I use a different color here. Okay, so here, the only two that you can cross multiply are these two numbers in an angle. They always have to be diagonally multiplied, right? So these are the two that I always say, those are the ones that multiply. So the variable x can be found by going 12, right? 12 times 21 or 21 times 12, it doesn't matter. Divided by what's left, the number that's left. And if you know how to do that, you're in pretty good shape. Okay, so 12 times 21 divided by 36, we get 7. And I always like to box on my final answer. if they asked you, you know, you can, eat, a certain amount of, peas in 21 minutes or whatever, right? 36 peas in 21 minutes, right? How long would it take you to eat 12, right? Like how long? Well, this would be minutes, so the units match on either side. And we'll do that as we go along. Okay, C. Now I'm just going to give you a bunch to try, okay? And they're going to look a little funky, but you just follow the steps I just showed you. So try those two there. If you still haven't received the new student Wi-Fi, I have the password there. I don't know if you're already able to access, but it's right there for students. All right. We'll do the last little bit just using our calculators because sometimes we rely on them too much. So I need you to make sure you're also doing some thinking there. And I want you to try to come up with these numbers. Calculate these expressions using your calculator. If you don't have a pi button, try to look for that. Your calculators should all have a pi button, but if you don't, it's 3.14159. We don't just use 3.14 because you would be off. It's rounding too early. Oops, I'm cutting it off there, right? 3.14159. But ideally, you should have a pi button. So for me, I have to press Shift and to access like the highlighted portion above the button, Shift, and then I access pi that way. Right, so for the first one, you just type it in 3.2 times 2.5 divided by 3, you get 250. Okay, so we'll write down 250. No problems there. That's what we've been doing. For the next one, you're going to be in trouble. When you have things multiplying or some operation in the denominator, you can't do it in one shot. Okay? In this case, you first need to deal with this part. So 3 times 2.5 is 7.5. Okay? And then you go 300 divided by 7.5. Or else it does not work. So that's 40. If you didn't, I think you get 360, right? It's not 360. It's 40. Okay, so we'll make a note, not 360. Okay, so if you have operations in the denominator, you need to do that first, rewrite it, and then divide. Okay, very important. Oh, we're almost out of time. This one, I'm just going to show you how I do it on mine, times 1.025. This little hat button here, or XY or YX, it depends on what calculator you have, gives me the exponent. So I get 145.38 if I round it to 2 decimals. So try to get that. And then the next one might be a little bit more challenging. So 4 times Shift, I need to press Shift to get the pi button, times 3.7. I have the squared button right here, but I could also use the hat. It's up to you. I'm going to go hit equals at this point. And then I'm going to divide by 3. Because that's what the little denominator is doing. It's dividing everything by 3. So that's 57.34. Okay, so this is kind of should take you back to like the surface area of a sphere and some volume. So that's what that is for. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. You got your booklets, you got your study sheets, you got your course outlines, all right?